Good afternoon. You're watching Business World Live here on One News. I'm Jess De Los Santos. Let's take a look at how the local bourse closed today, Tuesday. Right, it was a steady rise for local shares today as the benchmark once again breached the 7,400 level that extends gains for a second day with a 1.6% rise to 7,401. No small thanks to foreign investors returning to buying mode here with purchases valued at $15.3 million. This as a local bourse also returns to pre-pandemic activity. The return the full day trading from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. begins December 6th. Recall that the PSE has been holding shortened sessions up to 1 p.m. since March 16 when hard lockdowns were imposed in the country. Shares plunged record lows during that period, prompting the PSE to pull off its circuit breakers. But now that restrictions have eased in the metro and outside NCR, the bourse operator has decided to follow suit again. Full day trading begins December 6th, but we're still a few days away from that. Optimism running high on the bourse today. You have advancers beating decliners here. Alliance Global is topping the list here of our winners, adding 5% today. Another tourism stock, Bloomberry, also making hefty gains up by 3 and 7 tenths of a percent. Now, also, you have Converge finally snapping a 5 day retreat here, edging higher by 3.9%. Gokongwei stocks, as you can see right here, also in the green, the likes of JG Summit adding 4 and 3 tenths of a percent. Robinson's Land also increasing by 3 and a quarter of a percent. Same scenario for Robinson's Retail here, adding close to 3 and 1 tenths of a percent. Here are other headlines we're keeping our eyes on. National Privacy Commission Chairman Raymond Liboro warns the public that the proliferation of spam messages is an elaborate scheme done by an organized global syndicate to get money. On One News's agenda, Liboro advised the public to just ignore messages with sketchy job offers and to block the sender's numbers. On the same program, Smart Communications First Vice President and Chief Information Security Officer Angel Redoble says the firm has been blocking up to 500 numbers per day suspected of being used to send spam texts. Redoble says Smart finds the right numbers to block by finding keywords in spam messages and identifying IP addresses involved in scams. Globe, on the other hand, says it has strengthened its anti-spam and anti-scam capabilities by investing an additional $7.2 million in capital expenditures since the pandemic started. The Philippine Star reports that Globe's cybersecurity team has so far deactivated more than 5,600 confirmed spam numbers and successfully blocked close to 71 million spam messages in this year alone. Now, Fitch Solution expects the Philippine economy to recover to its pre-pandemic level by early next year. But speaking with us earlier here on Business World Live, senior risk analyst Michael Langham says the country's return to its pre-pandemic growth trend may take longer, which is at least 5 to 10 years. Langham says this is because of the pandemic's impact on the country's debt levels, household savings, business savings, and delays in investment. Fitch Solutions also notes that the Philippines has lagged behind its Asian peers in economic recovery, mostly due to lockdowns implemented earlier this year. Langham noted that growth disparity among countries is also caused by disparities in vaccine supplies and rollouts. And on the corporate front, the Securities and Exchange Commission is standing by its 2018 decision revoking Rappler's registration. At the center of the controversy is the donation of foreign investor Omidyar Network of Philippine Depositary Receipts, or PDRs, to Rappler. In its report to the Court of Appeals, the SEC says the donation of these financial instruments has no legal effect in reversing their 2018 ruling. It was the CA that ordered the SEC to review its earlier decision, which said that Rappler violated constitutional provisions on full Filipino ownership of mass media entities in the country. To find out more about their next course of action, we have on the program Rappler's tax lawyer, attorney Francis Lim. Good afternoon, attorney Lim.
Good afternoon.
All
Hello.
right, thank you for joining us, attorney Lim. Well, can you walk us through first on the timeline on this one? When did the SEC release its report affirming that Rappler's registration has been revoked?
The Securities and Exchange Commission made a report on their finding, I think, sometime in February of 2021. But we received a copy of what is they called as compliance only, I think, first week of March. So we immediately filed our um, motion for reconsideration with the special panel of the SEC, I think March 15th or thereabouts. So
Now,
that's
what's
the
going
time
to go ahead? Go ahead,
particular
attorney.
incident. Yes, that's the timeline. And
Mhm.
up to
Now,
now, still pending. No?
so what's going to happen then should the MR get denied or your motion for reconsideration gets denied?
We're hoping that the motion for reconsideration will be granted because we raise a constitutional ground, which is due process. Because the SEC, before the SEC made a report, no, it did not give us a chance to explain our side, no, and that's basic under our constitution. We pointed out in our motion for reconsideration that there were litigatable issues of fact and law that should have been considered. And now we are hopeful that after reading our motion for reconsideration, the SEC will agree with our opposition. Otherwise, it will delay things. No? Yes. If now on your question, what if the SEC denies it? Then we can go up to the Court of Appeals on that issue of due process alone, then ultimately to the Supreme Court. And if the Supreme Court agrees with us that we should be accorded due process, then the Supreme Court um, will have to may have to remand the case all over back to the SEC. So it will cause a delay. So if I were the SEC, I'm not imposing on them. Yes, it would be better if they would reconsider the decision and give us a chance to explain, to fully ventilate the issues that we have raised in our motion for reconsideration to avoid delay in the proceedings.
So, what then is going to be the worst case scenario here should the SEC decide to side with the decision of the SEC?
If the then okay then we intend to raise to reiterate our constitutional ground on due process, and we may also decide, although we have not decided, to already raise the substantive grounds, yes. But I think on the due process grounds alone, there is ample ground for the appellate courts, the Court of Appeals, and the Supreme Court to agree with us, because that's very basic under our Constitution.
So, do you feel how long do you think this whole battle is going to take?
Well, only heaven knows, no? Especially during the pandemic and then during the post-pandemic era, considering that cases have already piled up, no, due to delays caused about by the pandemic. Now,
Now, again,
We are not blaming the SEC alone. We're not blaming the length of time that is, um, what do you call this? It is studying our motion for reconsideration, because we do understand, no, the constraints that they are in, considering the pandemic.
okay, can you enlighten us more? Of course, at the center of this whole issue is a donation of what has been heavily contested, the Philippine Depositary Receipts or PDRs to Rappler. The SEC in its decision said that the donation has no effect. Can you enlighten us more as to what this means exactly?
There are a line of Supreme Court cases that a donation of the property to qualified individuals, like in this case, the Filipinos, because all the donors here are Filipinos, would cure whatever defect, no, it is. No? And in fact, there are also decisions that I think there are also decisions that an option given, for example, given to a foreigner to buy land is not void. And therefore, if that option is assigned by the foreigner to a Filipino, then the Filipino can legally own the property because it is qualified under the Constitution. So there are precedents laid down by the Supreme Court, and that's the reason, one of the reasons why we said to the SEC, give us our day in court before the SEC so that we can elucidate or explain all these cases, no, that we have cited. In fact, there is an SEC circular, I think way back in the before the 20 before in before this whole Rappler case started. No? Basically, the circular says that if shares of stock of a publicly listed company, okay, uh, exceed the 40% constitutional limit, then that can be cured. And that the SEC itself issued that circular in order to give public utilities to transfer or to cure whatever defects there were at the time of that Supreme Court decision in Tebes versus Gamboa. So both on the Supreme Court front and on the SEC front, there are precedents, no, which would basically say that assuming that there was um, control was given to the foreigners, that control would be cured by the subsequent donation. Of course, um, we have pointed out in our main pleading that actual control was never given to Omidyar. So it's a there are good legal grounds anchored or based on Supreme Court decisions and even on the SEC circular, which we pointed out in our motion for reconsideration. Yes,
Okay, so that's going to form part of your defense should you be given the opportunity to comment on the matter,
of course.
correct? Mm-hmm.
Or if in the worst case scenario that the SEC will deny our motion, then those are the substantive grounds that we have raised. Because so far we have raised only procedure um, relative to the due process clause of the Constitution.
Mm-hmm. Now, lastly, again, give us an idea what's going to be your next course of action and when's your timeline? Oh, what's your timeline for that?
It really depends on when the special panel of the SEC will decide on this because there are timelines, no, to elevate the case to the Court of Appeals and thereafter to elevate the case from the Court of Appeals to the Supreme Court.
All right. Thank you very much again for your time this afternoon. Rappler lawyer, attorney Francis Lim. Thank you, attorney.
Thank you very much, Jess.
And those are the biggest stories this trading day, November 23, 2021. Catch Business World live again tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. for the market open and 3:15 p.m. for the market close. I'm Jess De Los Santos. We are One News. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines.